First though, my next guest could be our new Prime Minister this year if Labour remain ahead, and they are well ahead in the polls against the Tories. But who's the real Keir Starmer? Well, a new biography, lifting the lid on his personal life, as well, of course, as his political career. And Sir Keir Starmer joins me now. It's so good to see you.
Good morning.
And this book is really good because, you know what? You're a sir. You've obviously got a very comfortable life, can't really place your accent. But reading the book, you're clearly one of the most working-class leaders of the Labour Party we've had for ages. But that doesn't seem to cut through. Does that annoy you? Is that partly why the reason of doing the book?
Yeah, I mean, I was reluctant to do a book, if I'm honest. When the idea was first put to me, I said, I don't think it's a good idea. Originally, I was going to write it, and then, you know, the time it takes to write a book, I mean, you know all about that.
Yeah, I don't think you have the time.
I'm just feeling uncomfortable. And then I was persuaded, look, it is important to do it because people are entitled to know who you are, what your background is. And I do think my background is important because I did grow up working class.
Yeah, very much so.
I did grow up, you know, with a dad, working in a factory. My mum was a nurse, but very, very ill. And there were times when we couldn't pay the bills. Now, I'm not saying that made me especially poor, but it does mean I know what it's like to be anxious about the monthly finances. And I had fantastic opportunities because I was then the first in my family to go to university. And
that's
then
a big deal in working-class families. Getting that photograph on the mantelpiece, you know, with the scroll and all the rest of it, that's a big, big deal.
It was really big. And then going off to be a lawyer, I had never met a lawyer before I went to university. I didn't really know what lawyers did. And there I am at university studying to be a lawyer, then being a lawyer, running a public service. And now into Parliament.
You know, you're self-made in that sense. What's really good is the insight into the relationship you had. Difficult relationship with your dad, as oftentimes that can be. But your mum shines through the early part of this book. What a very special woman she was.
She was fantastic. And there are some beautiful photographs in the book of my mum that we haven't published before, with a beaming smile. She was warm, generous. She was severely ill most of her life. She had Still's disease, started when she was 11 and took a terrible toll on her life in the end. Many years in a wheelchair, in the end had to have her leg amputated, and she couldn't even communicate by the time my children were born. And so they never got to see the warm, loving mum that I had. But every time you asked her how she was, even when you knew she was in terrible pain, she said, I'm all right. How are you? It was just this incredible courage.
Oh, I know women like that. I do.
And she was all her life. So when she was first diagnosed at the age of 11, she was told two things: you won't have children, and you won't be walking by the time you're in your 20s. And she defied both of those things, and the walking she defied over and over and over again, until later in her life when she couldn't walk again, and that almost broke her in the sense that the one you could push her down so many times, life-threatening operations, but she would somehow get back up. And in the end, when she couldn't, it was very, very difficult for her.
Do you think you've got that resilience? That's how you've managed to survive? Because politics, and it's getting, as we know, it's getting more and more dangerous. Have you inherited that from your mum, or because you've seen the way that she handled something so difficult?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. And I do have something in my head when I've got to do something difficult. I do think of my mum and think, if she can get through that operation, which should mean she'll never walk again, get back up, I can get through whatever I've got to do. And so that courage, that resilience, that determination is there with me, and that undoubtedly comes from Mum.
And you'll need that, because if you do, and it's looking very likely, it's yours to lose, in a sense.
We've got a long way to go. We've got to fight for every vote. But we put ourselves in as best position that we can be in, I think.
Your life will change dramatically, won't it? Absolutely dramatically, not just for you, but for your family as well. And these days, you know, the scrutiny that your family will be under, the only comparable is, I suppose, Kate and William. And you're very protective of your children. That comes across loud and clear in the book. And I guess that's going to be one of the things that you're going to have to really wrestle with, is how to make sure they have a relatively normal life. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not daunted by any of the decisions that we'll have to make if we are privileged enough to come into government. I do worry about my kids. We never name them publicly. We've never done a photo shoot with them. They go to the local secondary schools. They walk there, they walk home, and I want them to have that as a protected part of their life. But look, our boy is 15 and a half, going on 16. Our girl is 13. They're teenagers. And this will be probably about the most difficult age for them if we manage to get it over the line and form a Labour government. I become Prime Minister, and I am worried about that. I think we've talked about this, Vic and I, my wife. All we can do is seek to keep that protection in place for them and let them live their lives in that protected way. But it's going to be difficult.
No, it is. It's
if you're a 13-year-old girl like our girl is, you're sociable. You want to be out with your friends.
Of course.
My boy is, doing a lot of sport, and I just want to have that protected space for them. It's more than protection as well. It's also, I want to protect my time with them.
Yeah.
Very often you get
you're going to have to
fathers
really
who say, I didn't spend enough time with my kids. I don't want to be that
No, you don't want to
person.
be that dad. You're absolutely right. You mentioned your wife, fellow lawyer, very, very much her own woman, very much her own woman. Her life is going to change dramatically because we've got this very strange thing about the wives of Prime Ministers or husbands of Prime Ministers. There's not really an official title as such, but you're expected to be almost like First Lady or First Gentleman. That's the weird thing.
It is going to impact on Vic a lot. She often reminds me it's not what she signed up to when we got married.
And not that keen on moving to number 10, the family as well.
She reminds me that when I finished being a lawyer and came out of being the chief prosecutor and I was thinking what to do next, she was sort of saying, well, you could go off and do this legal job, nice and secure, good pension. And I decided to go into the madhouse of politics. But she is brilliant. She is totally grounded. She's sassy. She's gorgeous, and, she's just got this way about her that she gets on with everyone. Whatever she does, she works in the NHS, she loves her job there. She's not giving that job up.
Right.
At one point, she says she's not leaving Kentish Town, but she's fantastic.
No, well,
and she's my absolute anchor as well.
Well, that's what you need, especially with the job you're doing.
Completely.
And you know what, in politics as well, I mean, we just heard this morning about Diane Abbott said that she feels scared with the remarks that were made about her. And we know that politicians now are under increasing threat, actually, of violence. I mean, for goodness sake, we've seen 2 MPs who were killed, which is absolutely horrific. I mean, again, that's a worry, surely.
Well, the comments about Diane Abbott are just abhorrent. Diane has been a trailblazer. She has paved the way for others. She's probably faced more abuse than any other politician over the years on a sustained basis. And I'm sorry, this apology this morning that is pretending that what was said wasn't racist or anything to do with the fact she's a woman, I don't buy that, I'm afraid. And I think that it's time the Tory party called it out and returned the money.
No, exactly. It's appalling and nobody should have to go through that at all. Now, look, some people would say, and sitting talking to you here, I certainly don't think it's true, but they said, oh, he's a bit boring. He's a bit dull. Does that not drive you mad? Does that not think, for goodness sake, or do you think maybe we need a bit of boring?
Look, firstly, it doesn't drive me mad.
Do you not mind?
I couldn't care less. I play football every Sunday with a bunch of mates for 90 minutes. The things they call me are far less than that. So it's water for ducks back as far as I'm concerned.
But what about Peter Mandelson telling you had to lose weight? How rude. I hope you phoned him up and given him into trouble. That's very rude.
Well, look, again, I couldn't care less. But he should come and stand on the touchline when I'm playing football and hear what those guys say about me. It's
nothing? It's nothing at all?
The other thing, I suppose, more seriously, I say, because when we had Boris Johnson, we were saying, oh, you want someone who can tell a joke and entertain. I have to say, I've been leader of the Labour Party now for 4 years. I've been across the whole country, talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of people about the challenges they face. And none of them have said, Keir, what we need a joke. We need an entertainer. They want to know something. They want to know, do you really understand what I'm going through? Do you understand what it's like? And have you got a way of fixing this and making my life, my family's life, my community's life, my country better? And that's where the conversation really is.
There's some serious people. Look, take heart, Mr Keir Starmer, because I've got you at present. You have been compared, I don't know if you know this, to Mark Darcy in Bridget Jones's Diary. You are the original Mark Darcy, as played by Colin Firth, no less. So we got you a present that you must take with you. Look, the original
Look at
Mr Darcy.
Look at that.
So lovely to see you. thank you for coming in. You can
Thank you
take
very
that
much.
away.
I'll have my cup of tea tomorrow
Have your
morning.
cup of tea tomorrow in that. I'm sure your wife will giggle about that one. But lovely to see you. Really good. And the Keir Starmer, the biography by Tom Baldwin, is out right now. And it's a real insight into your life, especially your early life. And your mum, wow, what a woman. What a woman. Thank you very much
Thanks for having me on.